Claire, and she's actually a friend from high school who also does content creation, and you've probably seen her on your For You pages and stuff like that if you are a viewer of mine. So yeah, Kiana, do you want to introduce yourself?
Hi, I'm Kiana. I've been creating content on social media since about 2021. I kind of fell into it in a weird kind of way. I did a pageant in 2020 and I actually ended up winning Miss Teen Canada. So it kind of sparked this transition of being in a pandemic, but also being a title holder and trying to figure out how I could contribute to the spaces I'm passionate about within health and wellness and self care, personal growth, all those things. And so I just kind of started posting videos about how important self care was and diving into self love and how it's so important to believe in yourself. So that kind of sparked my interest for content creation. And eventually, after I was kind of like communities and just spread positivity in general. But for me, I was really passionate about self love. And I kind of was talking about how, through being kind to myself and trying to show up unapologetically as myself, it helped me achieve my goals and believe in myself. And I think something that kind of guided me was like self assurance, like investing in yourself and how beneficial it can be. So I think for like the accolades, you kind of need like, you have to have a great profile and talking about your extracurriculars, what you care about in terms of your platform, what communities are you contributing to? Are you in university? Do you have a job? Like those kinds of things. It's kind of like when you apply for a job in a sense, because you're kind of like a role model for, young girls and boys in Canada. So that was really exciting. And so once you apply, they go through all the applications. And for my particular category in teen, they pick about 12 to 14 girls and a variety of girls. It's very diverse, inclusive. So I think that was really amazing, like meeting so many women with different passions. But yeah, it was a really fun experience. And it was crazy because I was really nervous about doing it. Like I applied, and then when I was chosen as a finalist, I was like, oh my God, like I have to do it now. And so once I was in it and I got over that fear, I kind of prepared myself I wanted to be really confident. I prepared myself on speaking the things I was passionate about, not what I wanted to do with the title, but how I could be different. And I think what set me apart from the rest of the contestants, I was older. I was one of the older girls in the teen category. There's about 5 or 6 of us that were in first year. So I was on the older age category, which I think does help because you're just a little bit more developed in personality. But something that set me apart was I was really connected to my platform. And we were asked when I made it to the top 6, we were asked a question about what did we think the biggest issue was in our generation. And I think almost everybody said climate change. And my platform had nothing to do with climate change. It didn't even really cross my mind. And what I said was self-acceptance. I said we can't contribute to bigger issues until we love ourselves, feel proud of ourselves, and until we feel good with who we are, we're not able to effectively contribute to larger communities. And I said it's kind of like a stepping stone, like loving yourself to the areas of life that you care about. So that was kind of a long answer, but I hope that helped.
Yeah, no, that's insane.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember like seeing it on your like Instagram and stuff like that, that you
Mm-hmm.
won it, and I was like, wow, that sounds incredible. So
Yeah,
yeah,
it
no,
was it was such a crazy
yeah.
experience. I think I also too I like I'm a pretty private person, which is surprising because I do social media now. But that's kind of what like sparked me getting into social media because I had to like a friend of mine found out somehow that I was doing the pageant through Facebook. I guess I was tagged in something, and she like put it in our cheerleading group chat, and I hadn't told anyone besides like my couple of my best friends from high school. And after that, like she told everybody, I was like, like if I want to win, I have to put myself out there and talk about my platform and why I want to win. And you know what I mean? Like if that
Yeah.
was like the moment I was like, I really just can't care what people think anymore. And then after that moment, I went all in and it kind of like it I mean, I think it obviously contributed to me winning, but it also contributed to me in the social media space, like finding a place for myself, opening up, like kind of like further pushing that envelope of like not apologizing for who you are. So it was really impactful in like, I don't know, kind of like a butterfly effect kind of way. So yeah, it was so cool.
Yeah, no, that's incredible. And yeah, so do you want to talk a little bit about like LFS and UBC and like what you did in high
Absolutely.
school, kind of like courses you took, how the degree went?
Totally.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think when I was in high school, I was always really dedicated to studying. And I'd say I still am to the most part, but I I kind of went down the science path in high school. And I took majority of my classes early and kind of got ahead. We were able to do that
Mm-hmm.
being at a semester school. And when it came to applying to university, I was kind of on my own. I'm the oldest. My parents only ever went to college. So for me, it was kind of difficult for me to choose what I wanted to do. But I kind of always had med school in my mind because I loved learning about the human body. Like Bio 12 was a big shift for me. I loved learning about that. I liked chemistry. I was really interested in like the personal growth, health and wellness space because I had a bullet journal at the time. So I don't know if you remember that. I always had
I
my little
remember,
journal and I
yeah.
was doing my habit tracker and my fitness and
Mm-hmm.
stuff. So I felt like, okay, health and medicine seemed like the right path for me. So I kind of had it in my mind that I wanted to go to UBC in the province. So little did I know, like getting into UBC was a bigger deal than I thought. Because it was like the school in our backyard. I never really thought too
Yeah.
much of it. I think I didn't have that much knowledge back then, but that was kind of the plan. And food, nutrition, and health, that's the program I'm in. That felt like the best fit between science and also being a good feeder degree into med school. And so what's really interesting is when I started university, I had such cold feet. Like I I almost like I knew I was gonna go. I knew I wasn't gonna drop out. I was gonna like go in and see what it was like. But I knew that I had this off feeling and I had a conversation with an aunt before I started at university. And she said to me, like, everyone was asking me, like, what do you want to do? And I was saying, like, I kind of wanted to go to med school, but I didn't really know. I was kind of having my doubts. And when I was telling her what I was interested in, she said to me, what about entrepreneurship? And that changed everything for me. And so I went into school with that mindset and I stuck out the first semester in LFS and FNH. And then come January of 2020, I was like, I talked to every advisor I could. I went to an LFS advisor, I went to a solder advisor, and then I went to a career advisor. And when I started talking about what I wanted to do in entrepreneurship, like the business I was kind of interested in was in the personal growth space. I was advised to stay in nutrition because we all kind of came to the conclusion that it would make more sense for me to be an expert in what I wanted my business to be on instead of being an expert in business.
Yeah.
So I ended up staying in LFS. And what's really interesting is LFS has quite a few different degree programs, and a lot of them are very flexible. So me being in FNH, which is food, nutrition, and health, I was able to actually add on a psychology minor. And I only added on, I think, about one course on my degree because I was able to use majority of my electives to get this extra, accolade. So I think with LFS, if people are interested in applying for it, it's a great degree for obviously med school, any sort of healthcare profession, other than like in the kinesiology field. I think you want to be in that field, you should probably be in kinesiology, but the great feeder degree for any health profession. And it's also very flexible. It's small. Like I think there's max 5,000 people in the department. So you get a lot of like, you can have really intimate connections with the advisors because they get to know you. I've seen advisor. I would recommend that to everyone. See an advisor. I saw so many advisors throughout the years and ask questions. It's so helpful. But LFS is a great program for dipping your toes into health, especially. It's great for, different programs, like I said, like medicine, any sort of healthcare. It's flexible, but it's also great because I think nutrition is such a valuable subject that's often overlooked. I wish it was included in like high school PE programs. I think it's so unfortunate that you have to go to university to learn about it. And even some med school programs don't actually cover nutrition, which is kind of crazy to me because when we think about health, nutrition is like our baseline. All the systems in our body, they require vitamins and minerals. And if we don't get them from our food or supplements, they don't actually function properly. I feel like it's just so overlooked for that reason. And I think it should be like available and accessible to everyone. So I would totally recommend LFS and FNH in my program for sure, because I think whether you follow through with a career in that field, it's so valuable just learning the knowledge. Like in the last 2 to 3 years of my degree, everything I've learned has been so applicable to my life, which is amazing.
Yeah, no, I think it's a really cool degree too, because like you said, a lot of career options like for further study, right? Like I think you could probably even do nursing with a year or two, med
Absolutely.
school,
Yeah.
dietitian school. Like there's a lot of options. Is there like a lot
Mhm.
of opportunities if you just do the bachelor's degree, like working in the food industry? Or
I think so because yeah, so I think what's really interesting, it's a very broad degree.
yeah,
So because in my particular degree, because I'm in food nutrition and health, I have a very wide range of electives. I probably 30 credits worth of electives. So you can really cater the degree to the kind of field you want to be in. So if you want to be in like more marketing in the health and wellness space, or maybe you want to be in like fitness or food industry, it's also great for getting into the government if you
mm,
have French as well. Because something that's really interesting is I actually have it here, but I had to take a course on food law, quality assurance, and regulations. And when you take that course, you get a certificate in, I think it's called hazard analysis and critical control points. So you get this certification that can allow you to apply to jobs within the food industry, especially to the government, because you get quite a bit of practical training, which is really great. Sector side, on the quality control side, quality assurance as well. But what's great about that is all jobs, all production companies need people for that.
yeah,
So there's never going to be a shortage of jobs available for that. And I think that's something people don't know when they go into food and nutrition. I think a lot of people are like, if you don't become a dietitian, you're going to be a home economics teacher. But it's really not the case. There's so many other jobs, especially because one of the other degrees in the LFS program is food resource economics. And resources is always going to be, especially food resources, it's with sustainability being a rising issue, it's going to be so prominent in the future. And I think one thing I would say about LFS as well is they really prepare their students well to be socially intelligent. We have to take 2 to 3 different courses that are run by LFS on food justice, on I think it's called food security, food justice, and food sovereignty. And it really talks about like disparities between culture, race, gender, sex, and how like we talk about food systems and economics and how all these factors play into our health, nutrition, the economy, society. And I think it really makes you self aware and socially intelligent in terms of, privilege, collective issues that need interdisciplinary work. So I think it's a great field to go into. And I feel like you get such a well rounded education, also like beneficial for a career, but also like beneficial for your own personal knowledge. So I definitely recommend it. Like there's
yeah.
so many jobs out there and opportunities, and because it's smaller, you do have that capacity to network,
Yeah.
which is great.
No, it seems like really cool. Like I did science, like I did bio, and it was
Mm-hmm.
like the faculty is really big. It's very broad,
Mm-hmm.
and it's
Totally.
relatively like, you really have to make it what you want. Like if you want opportunities, like you better start cold emailing. Like it's all on
Totally.
you. Like I feel like if you
Yeah.
do
I,
something like
yeah.
that.
I think
Yeah.
that's a big thing with university as
Yeah.
well. Like, or even just life in general. Like, when you want to be successful, you do have to make your own opportunities.
Yeah.
And like, I think it's like my mom kind of said this to me. Like, success is kind of like the war of attrition. The people that don't give up are the
Yeah.
ones that end up successful. Like, throwing everything you can at the wall, meeting with people, making your own opportunities. Like, it's huge. It's
Yeah.
huge in terms of finding where you.
Physiotherapy the first time I applied. I feel like a
Mhm.
good way to think about it is like the point at which you're giving up, that's when you failed. Everything along that
Yes,
path, that's like all those road bumps, that's just the process. Like it's
totally.
yeah, I think
Yeah,
that's the mentality you have to have to like get wherever you want to be. Um, and to like actually make it in this world because you're like I feel like everybody's gonna have setbacks, everybody's gonna have like failures, everybody's gonna have things that they gotta get through.
absolutely. And I think something I've learned just in this last little bit here of the year is that the journey is so much more important than the destination.
Yeah.
Like, obviously, we all have, dreams and goals, and we want to get to that place. But if you're not like enjoying it along the way, then it's like going to be so deflating when you actually get there. I think, even when you achieve a goal, like, it's amazing being at the top, but it's also hard to stay there. And so I think enjoying those, the ups and downs, and like not rushing it, like just trusting that things will happen and unfold when they're meant to. I think that really helps me. Because I think like sometimes you have to just like let go of the result and like let go of control and just like, put the work in, but also just like trust that things will unfold when they're meant to. And it's so hard. It's so
It's
hard if you're
yeah.
ambitious and passionate, but it's a big part of like letting yourself have peace.
Yeah.
So I think that's so important.
Yeah, no, it's really hard. Like I feel like especially when you're like you said, like ambitious and everything, right? Like I have friends with like a 92 average applying to med school, working in the
Mm,
CDC or working in St. Paul's
totally.
Hospital, not even an interview
Mhm.
this cycle for some.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And I think that's another thing too, is
Yeah.
like when you don't get something you want, it makes you want it even more.
Yeah.
And I think that it's kind of like I talk about like inflection points. Like,
Mm,
those are like the defining moments. Like, for instance, if you don't get into med school, maybe you're deflated and you're like so upset, but at least you know how bad you want it.
yeah.
Whereas if you're not that upset about it, maybe that's not the right path. And maybe you have to
Hmm.
do some more self-discovery to find what's best for you. I think those moments, like, honestly, like, I guess, like, I don't want to call them failures, because I think I totally agree with what you said. You fail when you give up.
Yeah.
But I think those inflection points, those defining moments, really tell us so much about what our direction is in life, like if we're on the right path. And I think it's so important to listen to that, to like be tuned in. I've learned about this thing called like bad faith, and
Mm,
it's when you're doing everything you're supposed to do, and almost like you want to turn that bad faith off. Like, you have to go inward and listen to your intuition about, how do I feel about this moment? Like, it's awful, and why is it awful? Because I want to be here. Okay, well then let's keep putting in the work, and just it'll come when it's ready. I just got to keep
mm,
working at it. And I think that's a huge part of life. Like, it's not like every day's easy, and there's always ups and downs, but you have to find that like silver lining. And I think that's what keeps a lot of people going and motivated towards reaching their goal.
yeah. No, very similar with me. Like last cycle when I applied, I had like pretty good stats, like 89 average, like
Mm-hmm,
pretty decent
mm-hmm.
extracurriculars and everything. But I think
Yeah.
what messed me up was the Casper test, which is like this. Yeah.
Yes,
So
totally. I've taken that. Uh-huh.
yeah. So then like, it's just you just figure out what you can do in the year, what you can do to like learn to grow. Like I feel like anytime like your inflection point idea, like those are all just opportunities for accelerated learning because if those didn't
Yes.
happen, you wouldn't have like learned and self-developed as much as you are now, I guess. So
Mm-hmm.
I feel like that's like a good way to think about life and any
Totally.
setbacks
Like,
that you have.
and also too, like, one of my goals going into 2024 is actually to be committed to learning. And I think the thing is with like when you allow yourself to have those learning opportunities to get messy, make mistakes, take action, like you get clarity, but you
Mm-hmm.
also get growth. And we all know like growth has exponential effects, like personally, professionally, and learning and growth go hand in hand. And they're so important for, when you want to, when you're so ambitious and you have these big goals you want to achieve, but also just for your happiness to
Mm-hmm.
feel like you're moving forward. So yeah, it's a weird theory I just kind of came up with recently, but I was like, these are the moments that would kind of like define you from like giving up and throwing in the towel and going forward.
Yeah. Yeah. So you'll be graduating in May of 2024?
Yeah, well, if everything
If
goes
everything,
well,
yeah.
yes. If everything goes well,
Knock on
we will be
wood.
graduating. Yes, literally. Yes, if everything goes well, I'll be graduating in
Yeah.
2024 of May. Yes.
Yeah, how are you feeling about that? Like,
Oh, to be honest with you, it's been like on my mind for so long because I think for a long time I wanted to graduate very fast because, I'm so passionate about what I do in social media and I've wanted to have the opportunity to go all in for a while now. But I think also now that it's reality that I'm going to graduate. A lot of other fears are popping up, like I'm going to be taken seriously as an adult. I want to be able to make money. I want to be independent. I want to have, I guess, choices. I guess that's what I want. Like, I want to have the money to make choices, to travel if I want to move out, those kinds of things. So I think it's given me a lot of anxiety. Um, but I feel like I'm kind of on the other end of that now. Like, I feel like I've dealt with that like anticipation anxiety for a while, but I feel like now I'm kind of like, you know what, like I can't plan for the future because I'm not really going to know what the right decisions are until I'm in those moments. So something that's really helped me is just trying to enjoy the moment. Like it's so hard when you're in university because it is so intense and fast paced and exhausting, but once it's gone, you're going to miss it, which is ironic because it's so hard. But I don't want to like look back on it and like think about how much I hated it, like going through it. I want to look back at the moments with my friends. And, for the most part, I really enjoy the content I'm learning. So I'm trying to like enjoy the moment. But at the same time, I am really excited for the future. And I've even hummed and hawed because sometimes with social media, being completely free is very difficult on your mental health because I think when you're so passionate about something, it's on your mind all the time. Like it's so easy to go 100% all in. And then you're thinking about like, why did this post flop? What are these analytics? Am I getting anywhere? Does this brand want me? And I think sometimes like having something to backfill your life is beneficial. But I know deep down that I'm ready to close the chapter of my undergrad degree. It's just time. I have had friends in social media delay their degrees because like their school is a big content pillar for them. But for me, I actually didn't even know I was going to graduate this coming year until this year. Like I found out I was able to, I think in November of 2022. So I actually anticipated doing 6 years and then come early 2023, when I realized it was possible, I did the math. I decided to take 3 summer courses and I was like, you know what, I'm just going to do it. And yeah, so I think that's been one of the most difficult parts is knowing that I thought I had more time than I actually do. But I know deep down it's the right decision, even though it's scary, even though I don't have everything sorted out, I know that it's the right choice. And even if I'm kind of in limbo from now till the end of 2024, like I've kind of just decided that I'm okay with that. I think you have to like know yourself and trust yourself. I feel like deep down, I'm ambitious, I'm passionate, I'm disciplined. And if I take this next year to just figure things out and honestly give myself a bit of a well-deserved break, I don't think there's anything wrong with that. So
100%,
yeah,
yeah.
it's been tough because I'm a workaholic at heart, but really trying to just like really embrace the era I'm in kind of. I think it's important, because as an ambitious person, I'm sure you feel this way. It's so easy to be in the future.
Yeah.
And the thing is, you don't get the present moment back. And I've
Yeah.
been guilty of that so many times throughout my life. And I just want to enjoy these moments while they're here because then they'll be gone and you'll miss them.
Yeah, no, for sure. Like when I graduated in May, I still took a couple prereq courses for like other schools I wanted to apply to in Ontario. So I was still
Yeah.
taking courses till June. But then once you're
Nice.
done, it's like you have so much free time. You're so much freed up mental capacity to like
Yeah.
do things, make content, work, you know.
Hmm.
You do like one thing I miss is like seeing my friends all the time, like at university, because what's interesting is when you start working or when if you're working for yourself or whatever, like you're only gonna
Hmm.
see the people that are either coworkers or you actually put in effort to see. So
Yeah.
yeah, but like it's like for me at least, like I FaceTime a lot and like call my friends or we'll go like see each other or whatever. You just have to plan it. But in university, it's all like, oh, you have Monday, Wednesday, Friday together, or you're always gonna go get
Totally.
food or whatever. But yeah,
Yeah.
I think it's good. Like enjoy like the time you do have, but at the same time when you're moving forward, it's still positive. Like I think you'll like it.
Yeah,
Um,
I think I will too. And I
yeah.
think that the moment, like, it seems scarier than it is. I do think I agree with you. Like, the social aspect of it is, I think, where a lot of people take a hit. Some of my best friends are either older than me and have graduated. And that's one thing they've said. It's hard transitioning from seeing your friends every day to kind of like having those adult responsibilities. But I do think there is a lot of positives, especially like, I want to be self employed at the end of the day. And I'm sure you're kind of like in a
Yeah.
similar headspace. It kind of seems like it with your
Hmm.
content and your business. So I think I think that is a great buffer because you control your work, your routine, your schedule. So yeah, I think it'll definitely be better than I think in some areas and then harder than I think in others. But it's kind of one of those
Hmm.
things that like until I get there, I'm not gonna know. I'm not gonna have a plan. I'm not gonna know where to go next. But I think I'm kind of trying to embrace that openness. Like my whole life, at least for the last like 5 or so years, I've always had a plan
Yeah.
and plan. You
Yeah.
know.
And I think like from the age of like 5, the first time like when you're, you know, on like a Tuesday or a Wednesday, like you're thinking about it and it's like, oh, I can do whatever. Like how do I want to use this time? Right?
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
pretty incredible. And it's
How do
hard.
you? Oh,
Yeah.
sorry. No, I was gonna ask like, how do you find like?
Mhm.
I feel like I'm an intuitive person. So do
Yeah.
you find it hard to be disciplined?
I do some of the things you talk about and some of like other
Mhm.
people who are kind of similar talk
Okay.
about, where it's like I'll like plan everything, like things I
Hmm.
kind of want to get done, like to-do
Yeah.
list. I'll put everything into a calendar. Like I'm usually working Friday, Saturday, Sunday at seniors home and then a
Right.
couple days in the hospital, and then the rest of the time is like tutoring and just like kind of like
Hmm.
nothing scheduled.
Yeah.
um but like, yeah, I think that's a good way to kind of do it. Like I've been kind of
Hmm.
experimenting with leaving gaps in the calendar to like, but I don't know. Like it's still something I'm working on, but
Yeah, it's tough.
yeah,
Hmm.
but it's better than university because university it's like you don't have time. You're always studying if you want to get really good
I
grades.
know.
You're doing extracurriculars. It's just always like, yeah, it's always
Hmm.
stress. Um,
Yeah. I think too, like after a while in university, like once you're kind of over that bulk of your degree, it's a little hard to stay motivated
mhm.
because, at least for myself, like knowing that most likely I'm not applying to any like post grad programs,
Yeah.
it kind of feels, I don't want to say it feels like what is the point because I don't think it's been pointless, but sometimes it feels like I don't really need to get like
Yeah.
the best possible grades.
Yeah.
And knowing that my degree has kind of diverged from the career path I'm going on, I know that I prioritize the career path, right? Because
Yeah.
that's what's going to make me money, secure my future. So it is challenging. And I am excited for that separation to happen because I think I love learning, but sometimes it's nice to just learn without being graded on it, without, like learning what you want,
Yeah.
choosing your own pace. Like, I think
Yeah.
that's great too.
Yeah. Like even though I'm not taking classes and stuff, I never actually stopped learning. Like I read like a
Yeah.
book or so a week on just the
Hmm.
iPad. I always listen to podcasts and stuff. But
Mm,
it's just nice not having the stress of grades weigh
totally.
on you. Yeah. So yeah, do you want to talk more about content creation? Like, do you post on all the platforms and like your process and because
Sure, sure. So it's funny. I feel like me and I have a really good friend. We just dive deep into this stuff all the time. And so right now I'm posting on I have four platforms, I guess, like three, but four. So Instagram is kind of like my main platform. It is the platform I feel like I can connect with my audience the most because of stories, comments, and DMs. I think just across the board, it's the best for connection and fostering community with your audience. And then I've kind of dabbled in between because I think something that a lot of creators get caught up in, especially if you're on all the platforms, you get caught up on like, what are my like top platforms? And I'm taking a social media course right now, like aside from school, and something that the woman who owns the course, her name's Nitsin Rader. She's like a pretty big established content creator in Canada. And her Mind Your Business course is one of the top courses around. And so something she said when I went to a Q&A was that you should kind of think of your social media as an ecosystem. And that kind of changed the game for me because, if people like you on YouTube, they probably want to see what you're posting on Instagram. They might want to go to your website, and it all feeds back into the system that makes you money. And so, because of that, I've had this like new, I guess, goal or like maintenance habit kind of instilled, and I call it no ghosting. And so, basically, what that means is I try to be present on all platforms as often as I can. Sorry. I think consistency is so important, but I think sometimes it's unrealistic to be consistent on all platforms on a weekly basis. So I try my best on a monthly basis to be relatively consistently active on all platforms. So YouTube is probably like my second one because I think long term I would probably like to be a YouTuber. And so I'm hoping this semester I can do a lot of vlogging my UBC content on YouTube because it's great for memories. And I also think that long term, I would prefer to be more of a YouTuber than a TikTok, Instagram creator. I know I love all the platforms, to be honest with you, and I could never see me dropping any of them, but I think like right now I make the most money from Instagram, and Instagram and TikTok kind of like feed each other. And then YouTube is kind of where I want to make my money long term. I think because longer form content kind of suits my personality more. I'm more of like a chit chatty person. So that's kind of how I do my content right now. Like Instagram and TikTok are kind of like my money makers. And so Instagram is like the front runner just because of the engagement with your community, but also like it's not super demanding. And then YouTube is what I'm hoping to prioritize going into 2024. And TikTok right now, I had a very engaged niche community for majority of, last year. But when I go to school, it's very hard to create content for TikTok because for so long, TikTok was always quantity over quality. And now it's kind of changed. So I'm kind of in my like figuring out what I want to post on TikTok. I think all your platforms are kind of like variations on one central theme. So I'm kind of like experimenting with TikTok right now. And then something I'm hoping to experiment with more in 2024 is Pinterest.
Hmm.
Pinterest is it's a really underrated platform because Pinterest is a platform that will make you money and it'll make you money for months.
Hmm.
So I don't actually know all the details, but I know creators out there, a lot of small creators are able to monetize their social media and work full time because of Pinterest. So I'm really hoping to dive a little bit more into that in 2024. I went to an event with Pinterest at the end of the year, and it's a very niche community, all very authentic, genuine creators, and their team was amazing as well. So I'm hoping to dive more into that because I love Pinterest as a user. Um, And I feel like it would be a really great strategy as a content creator. And I think it would help me get a little more niche. I don't really think you have to be that niche on YouTube, but every other platform, I think you could be a little bit more niche. So that's kind of how I am on my platforms right now. But overall, I do try to think of it as an ecosystem, if that makes sense.
Yeah. No, that makes sense. Like I do pretty similar to you.
Mm-hmm.
YouTube, like I'll post like tutorials, like longer
Mm-hmm.
videos. I want to get into the shorts too. For me, I think like I like to just repost to like TikTok, Facebook, YouTube, and stuff like that. It's just annoying to have to go and repost each
It,
video.
it is.
If
I think, okay, here's the thing about reposting that I struggle with because
yeah,
it's time consuming.
yeah,
So for me, what I've tried to do is when I post a TikTok that I think is like relevant to other places, right then and there after posting it, I go into all the other platforms.
yeah.
But I also think, do you have Later, like that app?
Don't
So I have like,
later.
there's a lot of apps out there. Like I have one called Preview, and that's how I
Mhm.
like, and I
Okay.
believe with Later, you can actually, yeah, you do have to pay for a membership. But
Okay.
honestly, I think like I don't have it right now.
Yeah.
But I really want to look into it when I finish school because, I think, I do think that certain pieces of content work better on certain platforms for sure. And I think reposting and repurposing content is great, but I do think each platform has its own little spin. Like I
Yeah.
know for a fact that like some of the stuff I post on TikTok will do terrible on Instagram and vice versa. But sometimes like if you're a little bit more niche, I think reposting is very beneficial. But I also think like there's certain pieces of content that if you really love it, if it speaks to your overall platform and what you want to be about, I think it's great. And I think if you can find tools for that, like I really do want to check that one out because I think it's supposed to be quite good.
Yeah. No, because yeah, the reposting, like it ends up being like the biggest
Oh
barrier.
yeah.
Like what?
Well, I think like that's something people don't realize
Yeah.
is like posting is one of the biggest burdens of actually
Yeah.
doing social media,
Yeah.
especially on Instagram, like, and
Yeah.
I'm sure on Facebook as well.
Yeah.
Like TikTok is not bad because you don't really need a ton of hashtags and you can put things into I love the playlist idea. That is so great. But when you have to post on multiple platforms one after the other, like even when I post on Instagram, sometimes it's like a half an hour thing because
Really.
I like to do my captions in real time.
Jeez. Wow.
So yeah, like it's definitely not like effective or like I guess efficient is the right
Yeah.
word, but I like to do them in real time because they feel genuine. But then I think a new wave that's really coming into play in 2024, and kind of we've seen this on the end side of 2023, is SEO is becoming real. It's always been big on YouTube, but it's starting to be big on TikTok with the SEO optimization. So I think like it kind of sucks because I kind of use like Instagram as like a blog, which doesn't really work well for SEO optimization. But yeah, I think that's becoming a huge thing across all platforms.
Have you considered also posting to Facebook and LinkedIn and Twitter and Threads?
I haven't considered those other platforms, and I know they're all so valuable. Like I think Facebook, I would love to get into to do like a Facebook group. Have you seen those like broadcast channels on Instagram?
Yeah.
I think like I would love to do one. I just know I don't have the time right now, but
Yeah.
I would love to do like a small Facebook group, like if I had a podcast or something. Um, Twitter, I would say probably not because I have a personal account on Twitter and it is public, but it's like in my name, like it's just like personal interest, like random topics I like to learn more about, like manifesting and astrology, like things I'm interested in. Um, so Twitter is probably a no, but Threads I would like to use because it honestly is so similar to Twitter, and I love how integrated it is with Instagram. So I think Threads I should probably utilize more, and I actually kind of like it. So I know it's not like super popular with everyone, but Threads, LinkedIn is also one of my. I have not opened LinkedIn in probably a year and a half or something, but another project I will be working on when I
Yeah.
graduate for sure.
Yeah, like I've been I'm trying to get into those too, like just when I'm like
Hmm.
have a bit more time and like done my applications and everything. But I think there's like now there's like AI tools that you can use to like make like say your videos that you made and then just like turn it into text or like turn it into highlights.
Yes.
And then I think that could be
Yes.
valuable for those platforms, kind of like the takeaways or whatever. So I think that
I
would be
went to
good.
a event in the summer. It was with this I think they are like kind of like a like to know it, like an affiliate link app, so
Yeah.
somewhat like that. And they had a social media panel with four experts. One girl I know quite well, but they were all asked about how they feel about AI. And I think a lot of creators, like they said, I think like there's obviously fear with it, but there is so many great ways to use AI. Um, I've used AI a little bit, like on Notion, but I haven't found it to be super, super helpful. But I feel like another thing I want to dive into, like I feel like for myself personally, like I guess more professionally, but with like social media, there's so many things I want to look into after school that I have not had time for. Like LinkedIn, like that would probably be more for jobs as well. But like Pinterest, AI, like I think a huge thing is like if you can make it easier, that is so great. Because I think content creation is like it looks so effortless, and
Yeah.
it's like so much work. Like it's like I mean, a lot of jobs are like that, right? But
Yeah.
it's crazy. It's so much work. And your heart's like on the line. Like if you love a piece of content and it just flops, so that's always hard, right? Like you have to remember that if you love the content, like it's still valuable, but you also have to look at like what your audience needs. So sometimes it's like there's definitely moments for like selfish pieces of content, but you definitely have to look at what your audience is asking for. Um, and it can be hard. Like I think I like my content has changed a lot over the years with like TikTok and Instagram specifically. And, sometimes like you have to let go of things that just aren't working anymore, right? Which is, it's tough, but it's part and parcel with the game. Like I think at the end of the day with content, you are providing a service, right? Like a service and kind of like a companionship to your
Yeah.
audience. But yeah, it's hard to not take things personal for sure.
Yeah. What I personally do, like for me, like the content, like it's not that like it's more to just get leads, I guess, and like people interested
Mhm.
in doing tutoring or whatever with me. So
Yeah,
I to
that makes sense.
yeah, but it's more
Yeah.
like when I make content or whatever, I just try to think like, okay, what could I say or what could I do where it's like one person would find it valuable, and then if it's good enough for like one person to find value, I'll post it.
You know what? That's an amazing point you brought up
Yeah,
because I think like sometimes it's like it's that one comment on a video that you're like, I'm so glad it resonated. Like when you get like for me, getting zero comments, like which happens all the time,
yeah,
is like especially on TikTok, right? But like I'm
yeah.
like, oh, this is like like you because that connection happens in the comment section,
Hmm.
especially on TikTok. And you're so right. Like if it helped, that's I think a big part of like why I continue to do it. Because if it helps one person,
Yeah,
it is everything. Like I think one of the most gratifying feelings is when someone takes the time to either tell you in person or like reach out and say like this piece of content really helped me. It's the most touching thing. And I think like, both of us being in science and, you're going into physiotherapy, I was thinking about med school. I think that both stems from wanting to help others.
yeah,
And that was the big shift for me from med school to social media because I was like, I still want to help people. I just want to help people in a different way. And I know I'm more valuable in a different way.
yeah. Yeah, for sure. And like I think like we can't really control what the algorithm's gonna do, so it's better to just set like
Mm-hmm.
input goals, I guess. Like, oh, okay, I'm gonna spend this amount of time doing content creation. But it's
Mm-hmm.
still relatively difficult. Like, how do you come up with ideas? Like, I just try to use things I've learned either in books, things I could
Mm-hmm.
teach, or things that, like documenting. Like, I'd make day in the life videos, and those would kind of do well.
Mm-hmm.
But
Yeah, it coming up with an endless amount of ideas is very difficult, especially like the more niche you are. And I guess
mhm,
I will say that is the one plus side to me being a little bit more, I'd say I'm a less niche creator overall. But it is difficult. Like, I think that's where I'm at with TikTok. Like, I have especially because TikTok is way higher volume, I
Mm-hmm.
have created content to that feels like, even like my friend told me, like at the end of the year, it's kind of like my time to shine because I love personal growth content. I'm here for the goal setting videos, like helping you get that, putting a different spin on it. And so
Mm-hmm.
I think something for me that helps is leaning on my other platforms. Like right now, I'd say I'm not feeling super inspired with creating that kind of content on Instagram just because I'm kind of burnt out. And Instagram is like a demanding platform in terms of like energy and engagement and intention. So I've kind of like just been like, you know what? If I get one video up about 2024 goals or a 2023 recap, one of each, I am perfectly happy with that. And what I'm really trying to focus on right now is I'm putting up like a 2024 reset for YouTube. And I'm so inspired by that. So I think bouncing off of your different platforms can help you, but also sometimes like throwing things at the wall, I think throwing things at the wall. And sometimes I think this is actually a really great tip, recreating things that have done well. Like that is honestly like, I think that's a huge part in driving more viewers, more engagement to your page. If something's done well, try recreating it, even if it's from a long time ago, and even if it flops once, like give it a couple tries. You can kind of reframe it in a few different ways. So I think that's helpful. I think where I get caught up specifically on TikTok with generating ideas is because I feel like TikTok, you do a little bit better if you have like one thing you're super good at. Whereas Instagram, I feel like you can share your life a bit more. I feel like with TikTok, it gets a little bit tough because they have so many different formats you can use. Like there's like 7-second videos and 15-second videos and a minute video and 3-minute videos and 10-minute videos and photos. So I think like TikTok has really gone through a lot of phases of what the hot content is. Um, but I think staying true to yourself, like finding something you like, and I think we've talked about this, like kind of allowing yourself to like fail for a bit. Like if you really like, for instance, like if you really like making content on day in the life videos, but they're not doing well, like giving it a good shot, like um Rome isn't built in a day, like I remember when I first started my TikTok that it's not like I was doing that well. And then, over time, like what is doing well changes, right?
Yeah.
So I think giving things time is important. And, everybody goes through creative burnout, right? So, and sometimes even talking about that or, just filming something different helps. And I think everyone goes through ruts on social media. Like my social media on TikTok, I haven't gained followers, like significant followers in 2 years.
Mm.
I went up to 20,000 followers, but I've been relatively like up and down. And I think the thing is with social media, if you're not growing, you're losing. So if you're maintaining, you're in a good spot, but it is tough, like staying inspired to create new things. Um, but yeah, I think just trying new things, recreating old ideas, and kind of just tapping into what you're interested in can sometimes help. But it's definitely hard generating so many ideas, especially when you're trying to be high volume.
Yeah. That's what I've kind of like with the teaching videos, like if I'm just teaching like a math or chemistry or something, so easy for
Mm-hmm.
idea generation. It's like
Totally.
limitless. So that's why I kind of do a
Yeah.
mix now. And
Mm-hmm.
it's it's weird because sometimes like one of those it'll end up getting like 100,000 views and it's like no different than another one. And it's like what?
It's
Yeah.
crazy what goes viral. Like, of all my viral videos, like on TikTok, all my viral videos have been like within my niche, which I've
Yeah.
been thankful for because, like if you have a video that's like not about the regular content you make and it goes viral, you get all these like followers that are just kind of, not that they're here for the wrong reasons, but they aren't really getting an accurate depiction of what you're doing. So like I had a viral video on Instagram and it was like just me celebrating my 22nd birthday and like listening to Taylor Swift's 22 song. And that is something that is a part of my personality. But I was like, okay, like I think I got like it's great, that I got quite a bit of followers from that because, I love Taylor Swift, but it's not my entire personality, right? So it's like those are like the things too. But it's so weird what goes viral. Like it's
Yeah.
so weird.
Yeah. So I guess like now like moving forward with social media, I think you mentioned you wanted to
Mhm.
build like kind of like how do you want to monetize it? Do you want to work with brands? Like, I know you do a lot of sponsored posts, and you do it so well. Like, I remember your
Oh,
DoorDash one
thank
was
you.
like so like
Oh,
whoa, but
oh, thank you.
yeah, like
Yeah,
how do you want to grow?
yeah. So I think I do want to do like I filmed this in my YouTube video recently, and I was like, I don't really think I can beat around the bush. I think it's pretty obvious to anyone who follows me how invested I am in my social media. So my end goal with my career would be to work for myself and do my social media full time, eventually build a brand. But that's a way later thing. And I think the ways that I'm trying to monetize it now is brand deals are amazing when you get to work with brands you love. Like DoorDash happened to be, it's one of the brands I've worked with a couple times now. And it was so aligned because I spent a lot of my parents were out of town a lot in the last year visiting my brother. And so I was home by myself a lot. And DoorDash, I was door dashing all the time. So it worked out so well that they reached out to me. But brand deals are definitely one. Definitely UGC, like working for smaller companies, brands that want to work with me. So UGC and brand deals are kind of the same thing. I really want to do affiliate links because I'm in the lifestyle, self care, wellness space. And I think like I could totally be making more money off of that. But again, time. So I want to work on that a bit more with both the fashion and the like lifestyle side of things, because those are kind of like my two main things. So I want to do affiliate links more. Eventually, like long game, have my own brand of products. But I think even before that, I really want a podcast. I really like that's something like long term. I have like a very solid idea for it. Um, but I think something I've learned throughout social media is kind of knowing when to add things on. I don't think there's anything wrong with being on multiple platforms when you're a small creator, but I do think slowly adding things on once you feel like you've mastered something helps, because adding in a new platform, a new stream of income, it does make things harder and more complicated. So you do have to kind of like look at how well you're kind of on top of things. That is something I would say, like brand deals and affiliate links, hopefully working that out this year. Potentially maybe putting out like small products, like maybe like some personal growth guides or something like that, like digital things like that potentially. But I would say podcast ideally within like 2 years. I would like, like in 2025 would be ideal. Um, and then, long term, maybe like near the end of my 20s, hopefully having at least one brand, but hopefully two eventually. Kind of one probably in the personal growth space and then one in the fashion space. Those are kind of like my long term goals with social media. But I also do like want to kind of make the transition, as we talked about, from like right now, Instagram and TikTok is like my main money maker. And I'm hoping that this year I can move into either like monetizing YouTube is a big one, just like monetizing it in general, but moving into YouTube being a more consistent platform. Usually what happens to me is like I'll be very consistent for a bit and then school will get crazy and I'll fall off. With school ending, I'm hoping that I'll be able to be more consistent. So that's kind of like a big goal in 2024 is to really push consistency on YouTube, especially in like the latter end of the year.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah, no, like I think YouTube is
Mhm.
definitely like the best one to be on. And
Really?
it's
That's
like,
great. So
yeah,
is that part of
like it's like,
okay.
yeah, so you could probably,
Okay.
and there's not
I should look
many,
into it.
yeah, there's not like people disregard Facebook. Like I just saw one of like Gary V's posts where he's like
Hmm.
talking about it, and I was like, oh, sure, why not repost as well here? And then,
Yeah.
yeah, like it would be like pretty good and not bad for like just like posting content you would have made anyway, and then like
Hmm.
yeah, there are reels part like that's where there's a lot of growth I think still in like the group chats and stuff. Yeah.
Yes. Okay. Yeah. And Facebook is definitely one I've wanted to get into. I think where I struggle is right now, like all of my accounts are technically personal accounts. Like they're
Yeah.
business accounts, of
Yeah.
course, but they're my name, right?
Yeah.
So on Facebook, I'm not really sure how that would work, but it's definitely something worth diving into, especially because like I love the longer format
Yeah.
posts. I feel like for building an engaged community, it's really great. Like I mean, I'm obviously a part of Facebook groups for work and school, but
Yeah.
I love being a part of like podcast Facebook groups, especially like your niche interests. Like it's such a
Yeah.
great way to connect online with people with similar interests. So I would definitely love to dive into that. And I know like it's hard to know what those monetization programs, like if it's worth joining. Like I know that
Yeah.
I was part of the TikTok Creator Fund, I think briefly, or no, it wasn't the Creator Fund. It was there was I think there was another option for Canadian creators, but it just wasn't worth it because you couldn't use commercial music, right?
Yeah.
Which that's a huge thing on
Yeah.
social media.
Yeah. For sure. Do you still do lifeguarding? Like I remember.
I do,
Yeah.
yes. I mean, it's been a while though.
Yeah. But I mean, like, if
Yeah.
you want, like, you can still take shifts and stuff. Like, if.
Well, actually, I'm at an interesting point here with this. I was working a little bit on and off in the fall, but so we have these rules like you have to pick shifts
Yeah.
to get invited to the training, and I didn't pick shifts for the winter because I'm at UBC Monday through Friday, and I think I end at 5 most days.
Yeah.
So it was unrealistic for me to think I could technically pick up a day on the weekend, but I think everybody knows in university, like whatever's not done throughout the week, you need that weekend.
Yeah.
So I was like, it just wasn't worth it for me to pick a shift because when you lifeguard, you're also committed to teaching lessons, which I actually personally love. I love the little kids and
Yeah.
stuff, but you have to commit to the lessons for like at least 6 weeks. And if things come up, you're on the hook for looking for coverage. And I just thought it wasn't full. So I'm on like 6 different wait lists. But because that means if I get that training, I'm able to pick up during the season. And that we need that training because, with health, like our procedures change a lot. And, it's a big responsibility. Like I don't really I felt kind of guilty in the summer. I didn't really think too much of it. Like you think, oh, I'm just watching the pool, but some emergency happens and it's like for you it's like just your 9 to 5 job. It doesn't mean much, but for when someone has an emergency, it's like their life and death. So I had that reality check in the summer because there was a drug overdose in our parking lot. So having to help that person and thank God everything was okay, but it's kind of one of those jobs where you really do have to be present. So I get why, I need the training, but if I can't get it, I can't work until I get the next training, which kind of sucks, but
That's
kind
okay. I
of
mean,
is what it is.
yeah. I mean, when you're done school, you could probably do it and work a bit if you want to. So it's a good,
Totally.
yeah.
Yeah.
I think when you're self-employed or you're trying to do stuff for yourself, it's kind of good to have maybe even a day or two when you're doing something like that stable. And for me, I
Yes.
like it because you get at the seniors home, I'm teaching exercise. It's very related to physio and stuff. And you get to
Mm-hmm.
just talk to people and socialize, and it's a change of your environment. Because when
Mm-hmm.
you're done school, you know, you're probably gonna be just colleagues, or if you're at self-employed, you're just gonna be home all the time, or
Yeah.
cafe or something.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Yeah.
it's
No,
cool.
I actually think, I also had that realization
Yeah,
this summer when I was working at the pool. I realized that seeing the people and also I get to work with kids, which is
yeah,
fun as well. It makes a huge difference in my mental health, which is
yeah,
crazy because I've always hummed and hawed about my job because I will say it's a little high maintenance to keep. You have to do training, you have to do your recertification. So it takes quite a bit to keep this job up, but it's definitely worth it. I think I'll definitely be working in the summer as a lifeguard because I like to make some extra money. And I think I'm going to hang on to it until I either making enough money through social media full time or I get another 9 to 5 job that I'm interested in. But I think it's important to have that kind of back filler because working from from home by yourself, it's hard, especially if you are self-employed. It's very challenging because you have so much riding on it. Your emotions are in it because you're so passionate about it. And, social media is tough out there. It's definitely got so many pros, but the cons are definitely on your personal side of it with your life. So I think having something to backfill is honestly great. And I definitely will probably keep it up. And what's always been surprising to me is that people in lifeguarding are very social because we have to talk to the patrons, but also a lot of people are in university, like they kind of have growth mindset. So it's kind of nice to be in that environment. And like it's a variety of people. Like it's crazy because like I got that job when I was like 17, and now it's like people are hired and I'm like 5 years older than them. So that's kind of a jump scare. But there's also people older than me. So it's a nice community of people, which is really great.
Yeah, is it hard to like get the training? Like I think I got to like bronze medallion and I'm like I don't want to swim anymore.
Yeah, it is. Like it's because you have to do bronze medallion,
Yeah.
bronze cross, standard first aid. Then you have to do like water safety or like I can't remember what they called it now because they've changed it.
Yeah.
Then you have to do national lifeguard and life saving instructor. So you got to do like 6 courses overall, and then you have to maintain your CPR every year. And then a lot of the courses, like I think 3 of them, you have to recertify every 2 years. So it's kind of high maintenance, but it's like a competitive pay, especially in this economy. Like, it's above the cost of living in Vancouver, which bonus, right? Um, but it's a tough job. You're on your feet. You're working with kids. You're working with the community. It's definitely like it's a frontline job, right?
Yeah.
Which is hard. You're right in there, dealing with things, but it's very rewarding. Like obviously like personal growth is something probably more centered for people, anywhere in their mid to late teens and up. But I think one thing I like about working with kids is I think kids are so like impressionable. And I think to be a positive influence for them, make them all feel seen and heard and special is like important. Because I think when I was a kid, I had a lot of positive influences. I think that really helped like my self-esteem and confidence. So I like I like doing that job as a teacher because I think kids need sometimes outside support. So I don't know, it's very rewarding in that way to me. And it's not super meaningful in the terms of my like main career or my overall life, but it's meaningful in the way like I work in the city I live in, and this is the pool I used to go to when I was a kid. So I get to give back to like my direct community, which is really rewarding, which I love.
Yeah. How long does it take to get the certifications? Like can you do it in like a year or two? Or
But for me, I took about, I think, 2 years. I think I started in grade 10, definitely in a year. And if you go to like Abbotsford, other cities that are farther out, you can do it in a summer. The
mm,
only thing about that is if you do it quicker, you get less training and less experience. And depending on the place you get hired, whether it's like a one community center or a private club, or if you want to be a private lifeguard, it's very different than being hired by a municipality, especially like in Burnaby, they're a lot stricter.
yeah.
But there's other programs you go to for free to get better training. So it's definitely I think it's relatively quick. Like you could definitely
Yeah.
do it in a year. And it's a great job. Like you meet
Yeah.
people. I think you get a lot of good skills from it. So, but also like it's what you make it to, right?
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's super cool. I think I really recommend like people get lifeguarding or whatever. Like if you're in high school, good for college essays. You could work a little bit if you'd like and stuff like that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's great. And it's also great for like at the time, I wanted to
Yeah.
do med school. Like I learned so much about anatomy,
Mm-hmm.
health, um, and I think you get like a different side of it, which is great, like from a emergency care
Yeah.
like perspective. So I think that's very beneficial as well.
Yeah. And just like the thing I was gonna mention about content creation, I forgot to ask. Would you recommend people do it? Like if you're just an average person, you
Mhm.
know, doing I don't know average things.
Yeah, you know what? I think like for myself, it's interesting because like I think it really depends on what kind of person you are. I think like I think if you can handle doing a lot of things at once, if you are pretty outgoing and open-minded, or like you're open to sharing about your life, I think that those are two really important things. I think though, if you're creative, it's a great outlet, but I definitely think it's not for everyone. And I think too, what's really interesting is like, it's not for everyone but anyone can do it,
Yeah.
you know? Like, and there's definitely people that have personalities that are better suited for it, but I do still think anyone can do it. And I think if someone's interested in it, I don't see the harm in diving into it. Like when I like started in 2021, but like I was actually doing it for about a year. I just didn't really know it. And so I think if you're interested, it doesn't even have to be that serious. You can just start as a hobby. But I don't know. I think like on a personal level, I think it's like got definitely a lot of pros and cons. I would recommend it in a way that like you get so many memories from it. It's like a digital diary. Oh, sorry.
Yeah, it's okay. Bless you.
Digital diary. And I think even just doing it for yourself is great and amazing. But you do give up a lot of privacy, you know, like I think something that I've always struggled with is like, how much do I share? I'm naturally a more open person in like real life, but really having to break through that and share online was tough for me. It's still tough for me because like I value my privacy and I don't always want to share my moves ahead of time. But, you know, if it helps one person, that kind of pulls me through. Um, yeah, I think I would recommend it because I love it so much, but I know it's not for everyone.
Yeah. I think like if you're doing anything like you have a product or a service or anything or even like a side hustle or anything that you're interested in, you should 100% try it for at least like, a couple months or whatever of consistent effort because just the rewards are like insane. Like especially like if you're like for me, I have like the tutoring service and like the amount of people that like previously had no idea who you are who now want to like work with you or work with me, um, and like all over the world, like all over Canada. Like I'll see people from like England, America, like Toronto. It's like Saskatchewan, like it's
Yeah,
just, yeah,
literally.
it's so powerful for growing personal brands and stuff like that. So I think like even like moving forward next 10 years, I see myself with either like podcasts or
Hmm.
creating regular content anytime I have time or just making time for
Yeah.
it. um
You know, it's great for
yeah,
personal growth. It's like I think it's underrated in that way. Like it
yeah,
helps you personally grow. And I think what you said was honestly right on the money. If you have a side hustle, a hobby you're interested in, for sure, like I think at least trying it would be amazing. And also too, like a big part of it is knowing what to share and what not to share. And like, I think something that helps you is the more you know yourself, the easier it is for you to dive into the world of content creation. But, you know, I think that comes with experience. But, you know, you don't have to share everything. And I'm kind of starting to pull back in that way. Like, you know, I'm trying to share more about my actual content pillars and like still about my day, but like holding myself back a little bit because, you know, there are some things I want to just keep to myself and also like having like boundaries. It's just like any other relationship, like having boundaries with certain things, but it's so fun to experiment with and you get personal growth out of it. You get like a digital log of all the things you've done, especially on multiple platforms. Like you get to actually see your growth and remember how you felt, which is so special. But it also taught me how to like romanticize my life. You know, I remember I was like, fall was coming up in 2021, and I was like, I'm not a fall person. And like, my favorite season now, just because of like getting a coffee and just like doing little things. Or like, I'm sure you've seen girls like putting bows on everything. So it's like, it really allows you to like romanticize your life in a way. And I think it seems a lot more vain than it is. You know, I think sometimes people think that it's about fame and fortune, but a lot of the time it's about building a community and like honestly just having someone to relate to. Like I think we talked about this earlier, but tying things back to the journey because like I remember social media helped me through one of the roughest times in my life. Like I remember when I was in a really bad place, you know, just putting on a makeup video or putting on a bullet journal video was life changing for me. And so it's great that I get to do the same thing now for other people because I know how much I needed it back in the day. So yeah, I think like having that that community is everything, right? And
Yeah.
you don't need, I think the biggest misconception, you don't need a huge community to make money. And I'm sure you know that with your business.
Yeah. No, I think that's so true. Like it's just so powerful, and it is like I think even when I started it, like it was not really like a good place in life, like going through like
Mm-hmm.
first second year, like pandemic,
Mm-hmm.
like it's not,
Yes.
yeah, but it's just fun, like for me at least, to like provide value or to like I think we talked about this when you were texting. It's like we're creating content for like our younger selves almost, right? Or just like
Yes.
finding like things that we wish we kind of knew too.
What you needed,
Yeah, what
right?
you needed. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's like if
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, so yeah, do you want to talk a little bit about like self-care and some of the things that you found really helpful? Like I
Yeah,
started
absolutely.
like I did like the kids helpful and crisis response stuff, and like one of the
Hmm.
things I kind of learned from you was like the journaling and like the writing things down.
Yeah.
So I do
Hmm.
that.
I love that. I love that. Yeah. You know what? Self care, I think, really changed my life because,
Yeah.
I think a lot of the time, too, I've said this so many times. I think sometimes we're doing things and we don't
Yeah.
actually, A, realize we're doing them, but B, realize the impact it's having. And so, I think self care kind of came into play when I think it was, 2017. And I was right at New Year's going into 2017. And I was like, I want to like who I am. I wanted to start this like self love journey. And I didn't even really know it was a thing, but that's what I wanted. I wanted to feel good about myself, confident, love myself for who I am and kind of be unapologetically myself. Like I was navigating a couple like friendship breakups at the time. And so I was trying to say, I'm trying to be my true self and be okay with that. And it's not going to be for everyone, right? And then I think something that I realized when I was doing Miss Teen Canada in 2020, and so crazy because that's 3 years apart, right? But it's all these things add up. I realized that self care was what allowed me to step into that space of loving myself for who I am. And so my self care, I'd say the biggest one is journaling, right? So I kind of have two types of journals. I have my journal that's kind of like my diary where I do like reflections on like the month, the year, but also just writing down how I feel and like sorting through uncomfortable feelings is very helpful for me. But I also have my bullet journal, which is where I do my goals, my dreams. Habit tracking has been life changing for me because I kind of believe that habits are the way to create your goals
Yeah.
and achieve them. So that's been great. I honestly think too, like self care is very romanticized online. And I know that I've been a part of that space for so long since 2020, but I think that it's like the practical things that just make you feel good. Like for me, it's like my bubble bath. I take a bubble bath multiple times a week. It's my favorite time, and it's just I know I have a better day when I do the like watching my show on like my little back bench or reading a book,
Yeah.
and just like I'm making it a non-negotiable or like different things like lighting a candle. It is so small, but it makes my mood better. Skincare, it's like something practical, and I think things sometimes feel like a chore until we realize what they're actually doing for us.
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
trying to think of more ideas I have. I mean, reading is huge. And I think that's also like, I told you I wanted to get more into nonfiction reading, but just reading fiction because I enjoy it. I've always liked stories and writing and storytelling. It's probably part of how I got where I am now, but just reading fiction because I like it. Watching movies. Like I big on watching movies from my childhood, big kids movie person. Baking, cooking, like anything you're interested in. And also too, like a big part of self-care for me as someone who's in social media is drawing the line between sometimes I need the off-camera moment.
Yeah. Yeah, some of the things like we talk about on like the kids helpful and like resource page for this stuff is like what
Mm-hmm.
you basically everything you've said. It's like journaling, like writing things down. And what I kind of
Mm-hmm.
do when I do that is like clear the mind, like write down everything, create action
Yeah.
steps, and then create
Yes.
reminders. So it's like action steps are the things you can practically do to improve the situation, and then reminders
Mm-hmm.
are like kind of the things that you've done. Um, some of like your big accomplishments or like just like positive
Oh,
affirmations, I guess. And
I love that.
it's so helpful for people, and like I tell people on the platform as well, because anxiety and depression and this stuff is like so common, and it's
Hmm.
just so helpful for people to kind of do this. And the other thing is like exercise, and I know you're a big fan of that too, like going to the
Yeah.
gym, going for walks,
Hmm.
going for doing whatever you can to get moving. um
Hmm.
yeah.
Yeah, it's huge for your mental health. Like
Yeah.
I mean, I feel like I was gonna say it's crazy how it's all connected, but like obviously it's all
Yeah.
connected, right? Yeah. Yeah, even for me too, like, you know, sometimes getting in the gym for me is less about like a workout goal and more just like I like it's funny because the gym is something I do still need discipline for, like currently, because I've kind of gone through the
Yeah.
whole I've done it all thing. But I know even if I don't feel like working out, I know it doesn't even matter what I do. Even if I walk on my treadmill and watch YouTube, I will feel better after,
Yeah.
which is, reminding yourself of that too is
Yeah.
important. But yeah, and positive affirmation is actually, that was a big thing for me in 2022 because I was kind of going through this rough time where I felt like I set some over ambitious goals. And, at the end of the year, I think sometimes it can be deflating if you didn't achieve what you wanted. But positive affirmations really got me out of a dark spot. And I think it sometimes seems cheesy, but like it doesn't have to be. It's just for fun. Like it's
Yeah.
just hyping yourself up, and it's so good for you to like being optimistic is so beneficial for your mental health.
Yeah, it's like the things I would normally put is like, oh yeah, graduate from UBC, or actually went to
Yeah.
UBC, like, work these crazy hours to get to where, the grades were like something that
And
was,
yeah, like
yeah.
those tangible
Yeah.
achievements because we always underestimate what we've
Mm-hmm.
achieved.
So I think it's like really helpful for like almost anybody to do um, some of those things. Yeah.
Yeah,
Uh, I think, did you, did we miss anything? So it's self-care, wellness.
I don't think so. I think we kind of
Yeah.
hit all the main points. If there's
Yeah.
anything else you want to ask,
No.
but yeah, I think we got everything.
Yeah. Perfect. So yeah, I guess thank you so much for coming on to the show. Like the YouTube will probably won't get too many views, but
No, that's
hopefully
okay. I'm
repost
gonna
it.
be promoting it like crazy. Watch our video. Yeah,
Yeah.
I'll be out there for you. Yeah,
Amazing. I'm gonna stop
yeah.
the